Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Well, after all the build-up and speculation, I have finally seen Superman, my friends. And I am one unhappy supervillain. It pains me to have to tell you this because I'm a fan of James Gunn. He has a knack for fun that is all but lost in modern-day Hollywood, and while there are a lot of fun elements in Superman I genuinely enjoyed, at the end of the day, there's one element of this movie that I hated. An element so loathsome it completely took me out of the movie and pretty much ruined it for me. Now, I'm going to acknowledge right off the bat that this may have been a reaction more or less unique to me, an intensely personal reaction that many people did not have, judging by all the many great reviews out there. So please understand, I'm not presenting this review in any kind of definitive way. I'm not saying, in an absolute sense, that I'm right saying this movie is fatally flawed and a failure. I'm only saying that I had an emotional reaction to this movie that may well be atypical and anomalous. So your mileage may vary, but I have to be honest, my friends. I left this movie feeling very unhappy. Now this is a fresh take, my friends, and though I may change my mind later, I don't think I will. I doubt I will ever want to see this movie again, even though there were some very wonderful things about it. So, let's start with the things I loved about this movie before I get to the fly in the ointment. Folks, David Corenswet is a terrific Superman. I loved this take on the character. He's the closest thing to a genuine Superman we've seen since Christopher Reeves, a warm, genuinely good man who always wants to do the right thing. A Boy Scout in a superhero outfit. Corenswet's Superman is the kind of sincerely decent superhero we need right now, and probably that's why I could not enjoy watching him get abused, tortured, and screwed with relentlessly for an hour and 45 minutes. But we'll get to that in a minute. The simple fact of the matter is, Corenswet gets a thumbs up from me. The guy is wonderful in the role. Kudos also go to Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Of all the Loises and all the Supermans in all the world, she is my favorite. She's smart, sexy, supportive, beautiful, has a great sense of humor. She is now the gold standard of Loises, and the two leads together have great chemistry. Likewise, I loved meeting Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and the amazing Mr. Terrific, played by Idi Gathigi, who damn near stole the movie. This is one cool badass mofo, my friends, and together those three form the Justice Gang, a collection of dysfunctional superheroes I definitely want to see more of. Nathan Fillion and Isabella Merced were a hell of a lot of fun, and in all the scenes involving these three characters, I had a blast. Likewise with Krypto, who is a naughty doggo who nevertheless brightens this movie whenever he's on screen. Well, that is when he's not being abused, but we'll get to that in a minute. In short, James Gunn has done a fantastic job of laying the foundation for a new DC universe that has a lot of great characters and a hell of a lot of potential for fun. Some have said the movie is too full of characters. They aren't fleshed out and it's distracting. I disagree. In fact, it's only occasionally cutting to these other characters that made this damn movie bearable for me. The most fun I had in this movie was when Superman wasn't on screen, and that's not because of David Corenswet, it's because of Lex Luthor. Dear God in heaven, this could have been a great movie if not for Lex Luthor. And I'm not slamming the actor who played Lex. The problem is not with Nicholas Hoult, who, if anything, did too good a job with the role. The problem is with James Gunn's script. Here's where we get to the point where I admit this may have just been a very personal negative reaction of mine, but I wound up disliking, if not hating this movie because of how insanely much I hated Lex Luthor every single damn minute he's on screen. Folks, it's hard for me to think of an on-screen character I've despised more than Lex Luthor, even more than Snow Woke, maybe Mikey Spock. I despised Lex Luthor to the point where if I didn't see him die painfully at the end of the movie was going to be ruined for me, which sadly it was. I've been trying to logically analyze this reaction. I mean, after all, aren't we supposed to hate a villain? Without going into spoilers, it's safe to say that Lex Luthor tortures and abuses Superman for almost the entire running length of the film to the point where it almost becomes absurd. Well, I ask myself logically and analytically, isn't that what a villain is supposed to do? In a sense, the answer is yes. Yes, you're supposed to hate a villain. Yes, he's supposed to give a hero hell. And yet, all that said, Lex is a one-dimensional character with an almost demonic obsession with destroying Superman, and on our first outing with a new Superman, for me, that's the kiss of death. Think back to all the great villains we love. They all have either nuance or mystery. You need one of those two things to have a great villain. Darth Vader, for example, was fascinating because he was so mysterious. Then later, because nuance was added to his character, but he was a lot of fun to watch being a villain from the very start because his mystery gave him depth. We would fill in the background in our imaginations for Darth Vader, and that kept the mystery alive for years. Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor in Superman the movie, on the other hand, was a blast to watch because in addition to being a brilliant villain, he was funny. And he surrounded himself with a comedy relief bungler named Otis and one of the sexiest women alive, Miss Tessmacher. Oh my God, Miss Tessmacher. Ooh, Lord. Sorry, I blanked out there for a minute. Gene Hackman was chewing the scenery in the best possible supervillain manner in what were two of the absolute best comic book movies ever made, and thus, Lex Luthor's villainy was leavened by nuance. But this Lex Luthor is just a nasty, hateful, technocratic piece of shit yanked right out of the worst of modern day cinema. He has no charisma. He has no sense of humor. He has no interests other than torturing Superman and gaining power. And all of this is a fatal flaw for this movie. In a way, Superman is schizophrenic. The better half of it is a fun, old-fashioned superhero comic book movie romp, and then you have the Lex half of it, which is a modern, hateful, mass-murdering terrorist piece of filth lifted straight out of your standard cliched movie of the week police thriller. You know, the kind with a ticking clock, bathed in dark blue light with a string of bodies and a bioweapon that leaves people twisted knots of flesh. You know, that kind of shit. And these two things don't mix. You can't have a nasty, real-world villain like this in a colorful, fun superhero movie. It's like a squirt of piss in a barrel of applesauce. Well, shit. Once you got a squirt of piss in there, it's time to throw out that whole barrel, even though the piss is a small portion. You don't want a bite full of that piss. That's what's going on here. The worst effect of all of this is that Lex Luthor smothers Superman throughout this movie. He's always one or two steps ahead of Superman. Everywhere Superman goes, Lex is there to block him, and thus we never really get to see this Superman soar. It's incredibly frustrating to have a superhero movie where the hero can't really be super. The best Superman can do is take all the abuse and still find a way to win in the end, but I never truly felt like I got to see him kick ass in a superhero kind of way. Superman can't soar because he's smothered by Lex Luthor. Also, the black-clad baddies Lex Luthor uses against Superman, same note. They're no fun at all. They're just nasty little transplants from some much nastier movie with zero action figure potential. As I do this review, I'm getting upset all over again. I truly and deeply hated Lex Luthor's ugly, petty, nasty bullshit so damn much, my blood pressure shot up every time I saw his shallow, smug face on the screen, and that is not why I go to superhero movies. But, as I said, folks, let's be fair, I could be wrong. This negative reaction could simply be because I'm a vengeful supervillain, not a superhero. And if I had been Superman at the end of this movie, I would have grabbed Lex by his feet and whirled him around until he was a thin layer of red paste on the walls of his office. But, that's just me. That's why I am not Superman. In conclusion, I will say the ingredients for a blockbuster movie franchise are here, my friends, but this was not the right movie to launch it. I am personally looking forward to seeing the Justice Gang hopefully in their own movie. I'd love to see more of those guys, especially Mr. Terrific, and if there is no Lex Luthor in the next Superman sequel, I will happily give it another look and be hopeful that this time, Gunn will let this Superman soar and be the hero we need. But I will never watch anything with that Lex Luthor piece of garbage in it again. And if Superman gets abused this badly in a sequel, I will be done with the DCU for good. It's a fine line, and I feel that this movie crossed it. If I want to get depressed watching abuse and atrocities, shit, I'll just watch the news. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.